Monday Night Raw, March the 4th, 2024. The Amplified Review. And I, of course, will be your host, B motherfucking C. Amplified. Cody Rhodes and Sethington Rollins respond to The Rock's WrestleMania challenge. A bunch of heel versus heel matches. And Adam Pearce has found a way to come up with the number one contender for Gunther's title at WrestleMania 40, just 4 weeks away, by the way. We are finally just now implementing a plan just to get a number one contender. 4 weeks away from WrestleMania. And that's something we're going to talk about in this review. How that in and of itself is one of the biggest problems with this WrestleMania season under Paul Levesque McMahon. But the cold open teaser, before we even get to the review, the cold open teaser is on one subject, and that is Michael Cole, because the dude has done lost it. A lot to talk about. I say we do it right now. Big thanks to the fine folks at Dunkin' Donuts for providing this morning's beverage. Number 4 on the morning, by the way, and it's very early, but such is. Do as I say, not as I do. Do not drink this much caffeine, folks. It's probably not good for you. BC's a different beast. Big thanks to the fine folks at Dunkin' Donuts, and a big thanks to Clint Green, one of my unit subscribers and Gold Card members. Clint Green chucked a coffee at the channel. We did a live stream right before Monday Night Raw, and when we were done with that live stream, Clint chucked a coffee at the channel via the Super Thanks button option down below in the regular comments. So, Clint, I appreciate that coffee, man. I caught that after we were live. Big thanks, big props right back to you. Michael Cole. First of all, big props to Cole. He was told to do this. Papa H was under fire a little bit ever since the Sting retirement match at Revolution. A lot of people were bringing up how WWE did him dirty. And even in the media scrum, Sting brought up his first conversations with Tony Khan, and Tony Khan told Sting, "I'm not happy with the way they treated you over there." And now that's disrespectful. You will not be treated that way here. So once that was put out there in the media scrum, the conversations were just amplified at that point. So Paul Levesque McMahon's like, well, you know what? I'm gonna acknowledge Sting. My tribal Sting. So Levesque McMahon had Michael Cole give a shout out to Sting in last night's broadcast. Again, he was kind of backed into a corner. HHH had a rough day. He was really hearing a lot about how they did Sting dirty when he was in WWE, and that's just a fact. I'm not even just talking about Paul Levesque McMahon, Triple H defeating Sting, pinning him flat on his back, looking up at the lights at a WrestleMania, as if that was necessary. I'm not even just talking about that. When Sting said he wanted a good run, he wanted to have all these matches, and WWE said, we just got nothing for you. We just don't see it in you anymore. We're going to sit you at home. We'll give you one of those Legends contracts. WWE just never saw value in him, wanted him to sit home and collect a check. This dude had so much more to offer. 64 years old, he captivated the entire wrestling world this weekend. So anyway, no matter how we got there, no matter why it was done, at least WWE acknowledged Sting. That was pretty cool. And then it was immediately shut down. Pat McAfee tried to talk about how epic the match was. Michael Cole shut him down. Levesque McMahon screaming in his ear, no, look at the ratings, 2K ratings. Talk about Dominik's rating. Michael Cole cuts off Pat McAfee, because Pat started to talk about Sting's match in AEW this weekend at Revolution, and Michael Cole screams over him, Dominik's not happy with his rating. He's got a 76 or whatever it was. That was funny. Levesque McMahon's having his gimmick in his chest, the pacemaker starts palpitating. Oh no, he's smoking. But that's not the reason Michael Cole is the bulk of this cold open teaser. But again, much respect, a big thank you and a salute to Steve Borden's Sting for a near 40-year career that was basically flawless. And just 3 weeks shy of his 65th birthday, we're talking about an epic match he had this weekend. That's wild. Stinger, salute. But no, Michael Cole is the bulk of this cold open teaser because if you haven't noticed lately, Michael Cole, the dude's losing it. He's just losing it. And I'm not just talking about his hearing, right? Because not long ago on the Pat McAfee show, he announced to the world that he's losing his hearing. Unfortunately, years of being with WWE and having Vince and Kenny McMahon yell at you on the headset, always having the earbuds and the earpieces in, it's caught up to him, and he's losing his hearing. And at that point, when you get that news, you have two options. You literally hang it up immediately, right? You keep what little hearing you have left, you keep it. Or you keep doing this pro wrestling thing, and you risk losing even more. Michael Cole decided to keep doing this wrestling thing. We appreciate his services, but losing your hearing, it's not worth it, dude. But I truly believe that Michael Cole has already implemented or started the process of implementing his exit strategy. I really feel like this Calvin Patrick, the little Irish guy that was just there and he got fired, Kevin Patrick, I truly feel they were hoping he was the next big thing for commentary in WWE, and it failed miserably, right? It's not that easy just to get behind a microphone and start spewing words and thinking you're the bee's knees. You're the greatest thing since sliced bread. You are it. Everybody's going to be talking about how great you are. It's not that easy. Everybody thinks it is. That's why everybody and their brother and sister and mother and long-distance cousin has a podcast these days. Everybody thinks if I just get a microphone, I'm amazing. It's not that easy. So you can bring in the Adnan Virks, the Mike Adamleys, the Jimmy Smiths, the Kevin Patricks. All of these people, they tried, and they all failed one by one like dominoes. It's not easy. So that failed miserably. But they were really hoping that Kevin Patrick was going to take a lot of the pressure off of Michael Cole's shoulders. And when that failed miserably, then Corey Graves had to switch from the color commentator to the play-by-play guy. So Corey Graves had to take on a much, much bigger role than perhaps what he should be in, because Corey Graves should be that dude. He should be the Jesse the Bobby Ventura, the Bobby Heenan type broadcaster, commentator. But now he's got to tell the stories as if he is Jim Ross or Michael Cole. And he's doing all right, by the way. He just shouldn't be in that position because Corey Graves fits what he was doing perfectly. But this is what I mean. With failures and wild transitions happening, Michael Cole feels he can't go anywhere. So then he's forced to bring back Pat McAfee for a huge sum of money, by the way, just for Monday nights. But he's hoping that can alleviate some of the pressure. And you're starting to see on Monday nights, you're starting to see it's almost like a couple of high schoolers, because they're good buddies, right? Pat and Michael. On one hand, it's fun. It's fun to hear. It loosens up the show. It can be funny at times, no question. And then there's times where they just can't get serious. I mean, Michael Cole's losing it as it is. Pat McAfee has admitted millions and millions of times he doesn't follow the product. He knows the ins and outs. He knows what he needs to. When he gets to the arena, they tell him the basic bulletin points of what he's going to need to know. But he's the first to admit on his own show. He just did it again 2-3 times this week. He admits he'll show up. He doesn't even know who some of these people are. So they have to really fill him in on what he needs to know. He does not follow the product on a show-by-show basis. And Michael Cole literally no longer cares about the intricacies, the details. So when you put those two together, the talent will end up eventually suffering from that. And last night you saw that with Sami Zayn and Ivar. I mean, they couldn't get it together, man. Michael Cole absolutely has an orgasmic out-of-body experience when he sees Antlers on Sarah Logan's dome piece, or Van Halen, one of my favorite bands. is what she's going by now. Van Halen. And she comes out with the Antlers. And Michael Cole has been, I don't know, he's fixated on these Antlers. He's been doing this for weeks. And I always keep telling myself, I got to find out what's stemming from this. What's the big deal? But it's so irrelevant that I just forget about it. But last night, he took it to he just lost it. And you can tell that Michael Cole is no longer entertained by Monday Night Raw. Probably hasn't been in years. And that's okay, right? It just became a job to him along the way. And that's sad. Because, getting to WWE, that should be like a dream come true, right? It should never really, truly feel like a job. But for Cole, it probably has been for years. But now he's so checked out that, the dude just has to entertain himself. That's what you're seeing with Michael Cole. Right? We have fun. We say, oh, he's losing it. And unfortunately, he is a little bit. He's getting older, and maybe some wires aren't exactly where they should be upstairs, and maybe the hearing is literally being lost. But on the flip side, a bulk of what you're seeing is he's entertaining himself, man. He's entertaining himself. 3 hours of this show has finally broken Michael Cole. It has broken Michael Cole. To the point where Antlers are the biggest talking point of last night. You can look, the only thing that has captivated the headlines is WWE acknowledging Sting. And again, that's because Levesque McMahon was kind of forced to. He was taking a lot of heat. Because everybody was bringing up how Sting was treated in WWE, and now that his career is over, we're looking back and going, damn, how did WWE do him that dirty and AEW did him that much justice? But that's another story. That's one of the biggest talking points. That one little acknowledgement, which is massive, but it took about 5 seconds. And the other big story making the rounds 4 weeks away from WrestleMania is Michael Cole having an out-of-body experience over Antlers on a manager's head. To the point where Logan Van Halen had to put the Antlers on Michael Cole to shut him up. And once he had him on, he started flipping out. Pat McAfee's like, you got antler juice all over your face. You're squirting out or something. I don't even know what the conversation took a twist after that. Michael Cole then has to jump in. It's a family show. I don't think we can talk about it like this. Meanwhile, Sami Zayn and Ivar are having a match, by the way. That's what I mean, right? It's all shits and giggles, right? It's a funny moment, BC. It was. I couldn't believe what I was witnessing. It was probably one of the most, if not the most entertaining part of Monday Night Raw. But man, did I feel bad for Sami Zayn and Ivar. They were having a match, and about maybe 5-10 minutes before that match, they were backstage, and they really tried to make it like they're heated, right? Because this is a rematch, first of all. They've faced each other in the past. But that's what Levesque McMahon does. He just does a bunch of rematches. Face versus faces, heels versus heels, and rematches. That's Paul Levesque McMahon in a nutshell. He loves having heels versus heels, faces versus faces, and a bunch of rematches. But that's fine, right? They tried to really sell you on the idea like there's so much heat and friction between Ivar and Sami. And by the time they hit the ring, it was all about Van Halen and her Antlers. And you can't get back on track after that, guys. It's impossible. If you listen to it, man, the whole first part of the commentary, they're giggling. They have to stop saying anything because you could tell they're cracking up. They're probably pressing their mute button. Every commentary booth, no matter what the sport is, what the entity is, if it's a broadcast table, if it's commentary, or even a radio show, they always have a mute button. That way you can sneeze, cough, say something that should be in private. You have a mute button. And you could tell they were muting several times. They were giggling. It's funny on one hand, right? And you like the fact that they're loosened up. I get it. On the other hand, it tells... What it does is it tells the story of how boring Monday Night Raw truly is. And how much nothing is truly happening and nothing truly matters. That's the sad part, is they're entertaining themselves. And I know this because I've had this channel, over 5 years now? You know, and I understand I'm not the most consistent, and I'll go live on 15 minutes or 20 minutes notice. I understand all that. But I think by now you guys realize when it comes to pro wrestling knowledge, when it comes to dissecting these shows, when it comes to telling the facts about what is actually happening in this industry, BC's on the top of the game. Over 5 years I've had this channel. And I'll be the first to say, as much as I love pro wrestling, and I don't see that ever changing, I can't tell you how many times, and you guys have noticed this firsthand, how many times I've pretty much had to entertain myself in these reviews. I pretty much had to entertain you guys more than the show itself. On regular uploads, live streams, I have to do even more. I have to be more entertaining. I have to get amplified even more. I have to down even more coffee so that you guys are entertained, because going over these shows will be sleep-inducing way more than any NyQuil bottle can do. That's the sad part. Michael Cole. We have fun and we say, oh, Michael Cole's losing it. No, Michael Cole is bored out of his dome piece. Michael Cole is not entertained by the show that he is broadcasting. And Pat McAfee cannot be bothered to even watch the show on a consistent basis. Pat McAfee doesn't follow the show that he's calling. And that is why you have one of the two biggest headlines this morning, 4 weeks away from WrestleMania. And one of your two biggest headlines, the biggest talking point on the social doohickey machines, all of that, is Michael Cole and the antlers on his head. So Cody Rhodes starts this show. He tells The Rock, don't you ever talk about my dog. Of course, little Pharaoh, who he takes everywhere, loves that dog. The Rock has been talking a lot of game on little Pharaoh. So Cody starts his promo off, and Rock, he looks right at the hard cam. Don't you ever talk about my dog. I just thought that was great. You know, any pet owner any dude will tell you if they do have a dog, you don't talk about their dog. You just don't do it. You're going to get flatlined immediately, right? It's the old, BC will tell you, bro. You know what I mean? Like any dude will tell you. It's pretty evident if you ever come across a dude and his dog. If you look at the dog side-eyed, you're going to know never to do that again. Cody Rhodes looks right at that hard cam. And Rock, don't ever talk about my dog. I loved it, bro. Absolutely awesome. Great stuff. So that popped BC, obviously. And then Sethington Rollins comes out. McAfee calls him a highlighter. So right off the bat, I mean, how can you take anything this dude is saying seriously? I mean, the commentator just called you a human highlighter. Because he's in this bright-ass... what's the color of is it yellow or is it I don't even have a highlighter in front of me, do I? What's the color of a highlighter? What do we got here? Like a yellow, right? Yeah. Well, he was more like neon, though. Maybe like is there a neon yellow or is that just green? I forgot what he had on. It was like yellow, green. It was a highlighter. Well, highlighters have the pink, the neon pink, and the neon green. You can call them highlighters, the 80s edition, right? It's all neon. So anyway, he calls him a human highlighter. So right there, I'm like, oh, here we go. And then you got to mute the TV because you got 5 minutes of whoa. The crowd turns into human zombies. And finally, when that's all said and done, Seth can say his words. And Seth is tired of The Rock calling him all these names, right? Cody's little girlfriend, the walking clown show. So Seth goes, I'm going to stop calling you The Rock. I'm going to call you Diarrhea. And then the entire crowd, and then you wonder why pro wrestling gets such a bad rap, right? Why people look down at pro wrestling, man. There is a diarrhea chant in the crowd, and they pants the crowd, and I felt so bad. There was a lot of, like, ladies. Some pretty ladies, too, by the way. This was Texas, I believe. They got a lot of beautiful ladies in Texas. A lot. And there was a lot of beautiful ladies, and they weren't chanting, obviously. They looked like, oh my, this is what I'm doing with my Monday night. I got all these dudes around me screaming diarrhea. I felt so bad for them. I really did, man. But that's what we do, man. We'll take these little words and we're going to giggle with it. And even Seth was caught off guard. Like, Seth has heard, like, anything they say will turn into a chant, but he was about to start and he's like, are they serious? He looked at Cody like, are they really doing a diarrhea chant? Like, some of these dudes brought their girlfriends. What are we doing? Oh, bro, it was rough. And then he says that he's cleared. So this Friday, him and Cody are going to be on SmackDown. So that was that. And then they attacked The Rock's 21-minute promo on his social doohickey machine. You know, they're trying to, like that was a geeky thing to do, man. Wow, you cut a 21-minute video. Like, Rock, you think you're cool. You think you brought cool back to wrestling. You're saying wrestling is cool again because you. Seth says, Rock, you haven't been cool in years. Says the human highlighter. Pat McAfee just called you a highlighter. What do you know about cool? And why does cool what does cool have to do with this? The Rock just clearly got out of the gym clanging and banging, actually lifting heavy things up. And when he got out, he's full of amplification, full of adrenaline, and the wrestler has never left The Rock. That doesn't mean just doing a bunch of moves and sequences. Being a pro wrestler means you can rock this right here, the microphone. It means you can make people feel emotion in your words alone. To the point where The Rock doesn't need to have 300 matches a year like you, Seth. Doesn't need to break his back, his leg 6 times, and separate his shoulder 3 times just to try to entertain the fans. The Rock doesn't need to do that. He can literally, after he's done in that gym, to wear off the extra proteins that he probably had pre-workout, do the reset so he could do the post-workout routine, he's gonna expel those fumes in a promo for social. And it was just under 16 minutes. They added some edits and it became like just over 20 minutes. So he took 16 minutes to rock this out. See what I did there? He rocked it out. Yes, he did. And now Seth Rollins and Cody is saying, that wasn't cool, man. You spent 16 minutes on a promo for social. Dude, you're on it saying stupid shit. I mean, Cody, how Sethington Rollins, I cannot remember the last time Sethington Rollins said anything relevant that got millions of people talking about it. The Rock cut 16 minutes of material after his workout, and millions of people viewed it and talked about it. Millions with an M. And he's talking about cool? Cool? The Rock shredded you. Everybody was talking about it. The wrestler is still in The Rock. He can cut promos in his sleep. He's that good. And that's what's wrong with, just one of many things wrong with today's professional wrestler. They don't understand. That's pro wrestling. That you have the social doohickey machine so The Rock can do things like that. If this was around back in the day, Ric Flair would be slicing and dicing for hours at a time on his doohickey machine. But no, it's only supposed to be used for when Sethington raids Becky's closet and he gets her new high-top boots and he tries them on in the mirror. That's what he's going to post, right? Oh, the selfie. New boots. Who dis? New moon boots. Who dis? Becky just got them last week. I'm trying them on now. First time. New dis. New dis. New boots. Who dis? Who dis? New boots. Boots. Who dis? Hashtag boots, bitches. What are you putting up? This dude is over there selling this match because WWE done fucked it up. Seth Rollins has no business in there. He hasn't done this correctly. Cody looks like an idiot switching his mind every other day with no explanation. So yeah, The Rock now has to sell this. Well, BC, The Rock was the reason of the problem. No, The Rock came back to have a damn dream match. A meltdown occurred. Okay, now WWE has to go about their business correctly. Instead, they botched every step along the way. LeVec McMahon, by the way, placed the blame where it should be. Not on The Rock, on LeVec McMahon. This dude came right out a week later and said, everything is on my watch. He told you that, so believe him. It's LeVec McMahon. Tired of today's fan thinking that The Rock coming back is bad for WWE and bad for pro wrestling. How dare The Rock come back? We don't need you, Rock. Really? The ratings are going backwards at an alarming rate. Nobody puts a pulse into this show. Everybody looks like a geek and stupid out there. I think we need The Rock back. Tired of bullshit, man. I'm tired of appeasing this little base of fans that fucking thinks that it's their way or the highway. You know what I mean? Like, you listen to The Rock's response when he would come out. These arenas were going nuts. The second these meltdown warriors went to work and started to try to get Cody Rhodes into this thing, the second that happened, all of a sudden now arenas are like, Rocky sucks, Rocky sucks. Where was that? What are you talking about? Just because it's the thing to do now? Just because these wrestlers are telling you that's how you should react? It's Cody and Seth and Paul Levesque McMahon, they all want you to do that now. So now, like trained seals, Rocky sucks, Rocky sucks. And what's funny is that in just minutes, the same crowd is turned like that. The Rock has already got him chanting his name. That's how good he is. You forget you're supposed to boo him. Because your wrestlers told you that. Tired of this. The Rock is fucking incredible. Incredible. 16-minute promo after the gym is better than any promo Seth has cut in his career. And as much as I like Cody Rhodes, even Cody Rhodes, there's no promo from Cody Rhodes that starts with so Alabama, so California, so Montana, so Maine, so Florida, so everybody. Ooh, what do you want to talk about? No, The Rock in 16 minutes on social media absolutely flatlined everybody. And the only response from Sethington is, that's not even cool. No, posting your little selfies to try to get likes, that's cool. Rocky's cutting a 16-minute promo outside the gym, and Seth Rollins' response on live TV is, that wasn't cool. That's not even a cool thing to do, man, spending 16 minutes cutting a promo. When you didn't have to, man, the red light wasn't on, we're not on a TV show. The Rock is selling this match on his own time. You're telling The Rock what it takes to be cool. What are you talking about? You're going to learn badass trumps being cool, right? When you're so damn badass, that's just cool. The Rock is The Rock and where he is in life for a reason. You are raiding your girl's closet every Monday night, trying to find what to wear for a reason. You're on different sides of the spectrum in life. There's The Rock and there's Sethington, and there's a reason for that. Because The Rock is out there doing, willing to take the initiative to do a 16-minute promo. But even more than that, he has the ability to cut a 16-minute promo. When somebody's not giving him a bunch of scripted material, he can do that 16 minutes. He can do that. He has the ability to do that. And your response is, but it's not cool. Dude, Pat McAfee is out there calling you a highlighter last night. Stop, dude. Talking about cool. Called you a highlighter. You're talking about cool. Stop, dude. Stop. Gunther versus Dominik Mysterio. And by the way, to wrap up that whole little first segment, Seth and Cody will be going to SmackDown to confront Rock and Roman and give them their answer in person. So hopefully when Friday night SmackDown goes off the airwaves, I'll be much more invested in this nonsensical tag match. Because it's nonsensical right now. We all know that. You know, we should have gotten Rock versus Roman. And when the Cody thing, that whole meltdown occurred, okay, this is an easy switch up. Rock versus Roman and Cody versus Roman. Roman works 2 nights. It just has to happen. That was the easy solution, but we switched it up a little bit. Okay, so then you switch over to Rock and Rock versus Cody, right? Cody's doing the double nights anyway. But we decided to go with this tag match. Hopefully Friday night I will be more on board with it. The good news is The Rock will be one of those 4 people in that ring. So Seth, Cody, and Roman can each pick a corner and start roasting some marshmallows, make some s'mores, and just listen to The Rock do what he does best, right? The Rock says it himself. Sit down, shut up, enjoy the ride that The Rock is about to take you on. He's been saying that several times. It's literally the case. Just let him do what he does. Rock the microphone. We don't need anything else. We don't need Seth to take up any time talking about, I am the revolutionary. I am the visionary. I love it, missionary. I am insinuary. And then hand the mic over to Cody. We're Cody. Oh, well, San Antonio, Houston, Dallas. Ooh, what do you want to talk about? And even Roman. Dude's been crushing the mic as of late, but we don't need 5 minutes waiting for Texas to even acknowledge you. Just give The Rock the mic and let's go. The Rock will sell this. And then you pass it off to Cody and Seth, and hopefully they have something of substance in a response. Tell me how you really feel, BC. We dropping that gospel today, man. Gunther versus Dominik Mysterio. This is a heel versus a heel. A Levesque McMahon special, right? It's not special. This is Levesque McMahon in a nutshell. Last night was just full of just heel versus heel match. Heels. You had Gunther versus Dominic. You had Imperium versus Judgment Day in a tag match. You had Shayna and Zoey go face off with Kabuki Warriors after Shayna and Zoey's tag match. So they're still setting up that match, and that was made official for next week. More heels versus heels. It was just wild how much heel versus heel matches you had, and the crowd is just like, what do we do? Props though, because before this match, they did acknowledge Sting, as we talked about in the cold open when we were talking about Michael Cole. Again, I do have to reiterate, that was done because Paul Levesque McMahon was taking a lot of heat. Because it was Sting's last match, a lot of talk about how WWE did him dirty and Paul Levesque McMahon beating him at WrestleMania. Looking back at it, there was no need for that. Other than that was a personal accomplishment for Levesque McMahon. He's been wanting to do that for years. Sting was the guy when he was in WCW and he wouldn't give him the time of day. And that was big for Levesque McMahon. And then Sting went to the media scrum after Revolution. And he said his first conversation with Tony Khan, Tony said, basically, you were done dirty over there. I don't like the way they treated you over there. And you're not going to be treated that way here. And then that got a lot more people going, oh, yeah, Levesque McMahon. What was that WrestleMania, Victor? What was that for? WWE did him dirt. So they were getting a bad rap on that. So, this was their way to go, oh, hold on, man. We're going to acknowledge it, actually. So they did take a few seconds to thank Sting on a near 40-year career. And then Pat McAfee went to talk about the Revolution match. Like, that was an epic match. What a great match. And Michael Cole just screams over him, bro. You could tell Levesque McMahon was like, no! Shut up! Pat, shut up! Oh, Levesque McMahon turned into Vince. Shut up, Pat! Vince is at home yelling at the screen. Shut him up! Doofus son-in-law, shut him up! Too funny. But yeah, that was good. That was hilarious. Like, Pat McAfee is about to show the ultimate respect, talk about Sting's match. And Michael Cole's like, look at Dominic's rating. He's pissed. It was like a 2K rating for the video game. It was all funny. But then McAfee Oh, yeah. No, I already talked about that. So we'll just go to the finish of this match. Gunther basically worked face in this match. Because, again, it's heel versus heel, and Dominic gets a lot of... So Gunther works face in this match, which it makes zero sense this close to WrestleMania. Guys, he's held the title for this long, right? Heels holding the title going into Mania, especially if they've been holding it for a long time. That's the best scenario, because then you take a top face and they have that ultimate culminating moment at Mania and the heel drops the title. You just blurred the lines, man. So no matter if it's a Gable or a Sami Zayn, and we'll talk about that in a minute, no matter who it is, you're starting to get people to cheer for Gunther. What's the reason? Have him a diabolical heel, at least going into Mania. And then if you want to have this guy an ultra face, cool. But having him in there with Dominic makes zero sense. It literally destroys at least one of these dudes. And for Gunther, a lot of people are coming out of that thinking, how can we take this guy as a serious heel? I mean, he got out-heeled by Dominic because Dominic got more boos. That's what happens in these scenarios. Gunther was in there with Bronson Reed not long ago. Both were heels. And Bronson Reed was absolutely destroyed in that. He got beat, and then afterwards, nobody even cared, right? They try to have a sentimental moment where Bronson's like, man, I almost had him, and he looks at the crowd, and they were hoping the crowd would be like giving him a golf clap. Nobody cared. So it fell right on its face, and Bronson had to remain a heel. The only problem is that booking greatly hurt him. I don't get this heel versus heel crap. I don't know how you would look at Dominic, look at Gunther, and say, that's a match we need on Raw. And if you're wondering, Gunther bomb into a Boston Crab forces Dominic to tap out. Nothing happened afterwards, by the way. If you're wondering, like, did somebody attack Gunther? Did we have a really, an epic storyline really ignite? Because we should have had that. I mean, we're 4 weeks away from Mania. Forbid if we have a Gunther storyline for the title. And that's the biggest issue. Man, this might be a long review now. We had a long cold open about Michael Cole of all things. But this is going to be, in the over 5 years I've had this channel, this is going to be one of the most realist things I can say to you guys, man. One of the realest discussions we can have. Because this is one of the biggest reasons right now. One of the biggest issues, I'll say, with this year's WrestleMania. And it's one of the biggest problems in pro wrestling. The fact that, because let me set this up a few segments later, into the second hour, Adam Pearce announces that there's going to be a gauntlet match next week. Chad Gable is in this thing, Sami Zayn, Bronson Reed, JD McDonuts, Ricochet, and Shinsuke Nakamura. All 6 dudes. Now I know you're thinking, well, wait a second. I mean, McDonuts is 4 of 14, right? He's lost 10 of his 14 matches. How the heck is JD McDonuts going for a title? Bronson Reed is like, 2 or 3 out of his last 10 tops? Yes, these numbers are basically true. Roughly, anyway. They're just throwing, again, it's like just having names and you're throwing baloney and where it sticks, those are the names in the match. So I hear you on that. That's a separate conversation. WWE has always done this. They take random names and they put them in matches they have no business being in because the booking does not justify it. But again, that's a separate story. So now you go to the biggest issue that we have. The fact that we're doing a gauntlet match next week, which at that point will be headed toward 3 weeks before Mania. Right, 3 weeks and some change by next Monday. And we are just now trying to find the number 1 contender for the Intercontinental Championship. That's one of the biggest issues. The fact that we are trying to come up with number 1 contenders just weeks before Mania instead of weeks ago already having a storyline set for these titles, for these champions. Storylines where the other person at the other end of that storyline is the number 1 contender. You guys know that that's what's missing in pro wrestling today, especially with these pay-per-views, especially on the grandest stage like WrestleMania. The fact that the Kabuki Warriors still need to find out who they're facing at Mania. We're going to come up with a gauntlet match probably for them too, or a tag team battle royal, or a tournament. And a week before, we'll find out who the Kabuki Warriors are facing. Gunther, we're going to do a gauntlet match next week when we're headed toward 3 weeks before Mania. We'll try to find a number one contender. No storyline. And that's the problem. We have stopped giving these wrestlers actual stories that we care about, that we can really get into, get interested, be intrigued with. We stopped giving them storylines, and we're just throwing out their number one contender matches. So that what? Somebody wins the gauntlet match, and now they earned the right for the IC title with the dude that was working as a face last night, by the way. Because it's got to be Gable or Sami Zayn that wins this. Either one of them. But Gunther is now working as a face lately, so you're going to have a face versus face, so the moment is going to be less special if Sami wins the championship or if Gable wins the championship, because that's what's going to happen. Paul Levesque McMahon is so stupid with his booking. Sorry, not sorry to be that direct, but this is illogical, ridiculous stupidity. I have never seen booking this atrocious, and I've watched over 3 decades. I have never seen it this bad, where it literally doesn't make sense to the point where you have to take the booking book away from Paul Levesque McMahon. Somebody has to get word to take the book away from this dude. He's lost. And it's like he's sabotaging the product. If I am Ari Emanuel, I am removing HHH immediately. Effective immediately, you are gone. Have all McMahons removed. And that's the only way we're going to try to get this WWE train back on the tracks. I could not believe what I was hearing. Weeks ago, man. Royal Rumble time, we should have been having a storyline. And you say, well, BC, I think the original story was Brock, and then the thing happened, of course, with Vince and Brock, so they had to audible BC. It's not their fault. Guys, even if that was the case, and by the way, I was hearing that Brock officially was going to be involved in something different. But some of the reports out there said, it was going to end up with Gunther. No matter what, we learned about that Rumble time. Okay, well over a month ago. You audible, you find a name, and you say, that's who we're going with. And we're going to put an epic story to this. This is going to be a match, even though it's the mid-card title, that everybody is going to want to see, the sleeper match. And they didn't even bother. Here we are into March. Brock Lesnar, that thing was in January. We are now in March, and just last night, they said, we're going to have a gauntlet match next week. We'll come up with it. We'll think about who we want. We'll sit on it for another week, and then next week, we'll come up with a winner. You guys will see it in the gauntlet match. 3 weeks before Mania, we'll have our match set. This should have been weeks ago, a storyline set up. If it's Chad Gable getting his one last chance, man, you ignite that storyline. If it's Sami Zayn, you get that rocking. We don't need Sami Zayn questioning himself. Oh, he's losing all these matches, but you know what? I still believe in myself. We don't need the Rocky underdog WrestleMania 40 story. That's already Cody trying to accomplish his frickin' thing. We just need Sami and Gunther, or Gable and Gunther, to rock out. Have Imperium chasing down Gable with a monster truck in the parking lot. Have Gunther throwing Gable off the roof. I don't care. Make this fun. Instead, what? Gable wins a gauntlet match. He's going to get his rematch with Gunther now. Yay, man. This is exciting. This is exciting. Did you see Gunther? You're going to get Gunther and Imperium. Gunther versus Gable. Oh, why are we getting that match? What's the feud? I mean, there is none. I mean, Gable lost to him in the past, so Gable really would like to beat him. And then Gable won a gauntlet match, so he earned another shot. There's no real feud, but probably should be. Yeah, that's pro wrestling, man. It's not professional wrestling anymore if you're just going to take the story out of it. It's literally not professional wrestling anymore. They're trying to treat this like a real sport. Is that what we're... Like all these number one contenders and like the champion versus the number one contender. And we're just going to, that's just wrestling now? Just right before the pay-per-view, we're going to have the Battle Royal to determine the number one contender. We're going to do the tournament to determine the number one contender. We're going to do the Gauntlet Match to determine the number one contender. We're going to have the Fatal 4-Way or the Triple Threat. And we're always going to do this to determine a number one contender. I don't give a shit about the title of number one contender. I give a shit about the feud itself. The title should be like oh yeah, the title's on the line. I've been talking about Ric Flair and Randy Savage. You know, Randy Savage is one of my dudes from back in the day, man. Randy Savage versus Ric Flair, WrestleMania 8. I've been talking about that a lot because the story was so epic. You know, the title was on the line there, guys. But the feud was so lightning hot that you had to see them just start throwing fists at each other. You just had to see them collide. The title just made it so much more special. I couldn't imagine if you were trying to do a Macho Man Ric Flair WrestleMania 8 match and it was set up just, well, Ric Flair's the champ and Macho Man won a gauntlet match. And because Macho lost to Flair a few months ago, he really would like to get a victory over him. No, you put Miss Elizabeth in there, you get Ric Flair getting in Macho Man's head and you have all this fun. It's a story. Hulk Hogan versus Macho Man at WrestleMania 5. You wouldn't just have Hulk Hogan win a gauntlet match to try to get Randy Savage's championship. Or win a battle. I mean, it's just weird, right? They had a storyline. It's just, it's amazing to me that this is acceptable in today's pro wrestling. And then you wonder why that intrigue is no longer there, right? And because attention spans are different, right? I guess it's a microcosm of the greater society, right? Attention spans are so short. People just can't wait to get out of the house and cheer for anything. So I guess to WWE, it doesn't matter, right? Because everybody's on to the next anyway. So they can set up matches days before the event. Why does it matter? Why have long-term feuds? So Paul Levesque McMahon just books for the short term, right? Xia Li wins a couple of matches just to do a quick job to Becky Lynch and somebody down in NXT. That was it. And then you never saw her again. Fire and Dawn come up just to do the job to the champions at the time, and then they go away into non-existentry. You have Shinsuke Nakamura and Cody Rhodes. It looks like they're setting up a storyline for a couple of pay-per-views maybe. And no, you're going to get 3 Monday Night Raw matches out of it. Rematch, and then that's it. Move on. Who did we just see? Who was it last night? Was it last night? Yeah, Shayna Baszler and Zoey Stark. They have this weird thing with the Kabuki Warriors last week, and they teased that match, right? They win that match, and Michael Cole's like, Kabuki Warriors, better watch out. Baszler and Zoey are coming for him. And I'm like, 2 heel teams. But why? Is that really going to be something they're going to ignite? And then they come face-to-face last night. And before you know it, they got a tag title match next week on Raw between these 2 teams. Paul Levesque McMahon just books for the short term. And maybe we can accept that if it was done correctly, but even that's not done correctly. Oh, I'm on a roll, man. I just can't. This level of illogical booking and this level of just no common sense being issued, I just can't accept it. You know, we're talking about number one contenders instead of igniting storylines. Why are we not spending time weeks ago setting up a really badass story for the Kabuki Warriors, for the Gunthers, and for so many other matches that need to be penciled in 3 weeks away from the event? Bullshit. Anyway, that's what you get. In the next match, so again, Gunther bomb into a Boston Crab. Dominic taps out. Heel versus heel. And Gunther was kind of working face in this match. Awesome. That's definitely a way to book him as a diabolical heel about to drop the title at Mania. Good job, HHH. Said nobody ever. Carter and Chance then face Baszler and Stark. Quick 3-minute match. 3 minutes. If this was Vince McMahon booking, we'd drag it. Last week on Raw, 3 ladies matches, all under like 2 minutes. If this was VKM, you'd be dragging him because it's HHH. His hands are tied, man. He's got to do this. Carter and Chance, first of all, Zoey defeats Chance with a devastating fruit roll-up. Oh, that roll-up. So Zoey and Baszler win this match, again, via roll-up. Carter and Chance looked great in this match. I mean, in the 3 minutes they had, that was some of their most flawless work. And there's times where they try some stuff and it just doesn't work. Or there's a little bit of a botch or a lot of a bit. But at least they tried. Last night, they tried everything and they nailed everything. So it was sad to see them just lose in 3 minutes, but they looked really great. Damage Control, who was outside at ringside around commentary at the time, Damage Control faces off with Baszler and Stark after the match in the ring. So they're all facing each other. And again, you're looking at heels versus heels. And Dakota Kai talks some trash on behalf of the Kabuki Warriors, on behalf of Kari and Asuka. And then Shayna grabs the mic, which is never a good idea because she's horrible on the mic. And she's like, "It's about time. We'll see you next week." And that was it. That was the promo, guys. It's about time. See you next week. The crowd completely dead. No. That's just not my commentary. That's not my review of it. That's what actually happened. The crowd was completely dead. I wonder why. Your champions are in the middle of the ring just a few weeks before WrestleMania, and you have them in there with another heel team that you have booked so poorly, so horribly, that nobody cared about them anyway. Now you're putting them in a title match next week, heels versus heels, and you wonder why your crowd is sitting on their hands? Or snuggled up with their snuggies with a warm cup of cocoa and probably their parents are reading them a bedtime story. You really wonder why? Horrendous. Again, this is the biggest issue with this year's Mania. We're talking about number one contenders still and just trying to find these champions opponents weeks before Mania instead of giving them storylines weeks ago. This is where we're at. Hour number 2, Becky Lynch versus Nia Jax. Liv Morgan interferes, takes out Jax, so Nia Jax defeats Becky Lynch. Way to have Becky Lynch storm into WrestleMania. Keep having her lose to Nia Jax. Great. This was via DQ. Post-match tensions are high between Morgan and Lynch. And I think they even had Nia maybe take them both out afterwards. Some schmozzery. And then a match was made for next week. Becky versus Liv. If you're wondering, yes. Face versus face. So if Becky is walking into Mania and taking that title from Rhea Ripley, well, you're going to divide your audience even more because there's a big chance Liv Morgan will get a lot of cheers next week. So you're just going to devalue and diminish the substance that Becky Lynch can obtain going into Mania. That's smart, Paul. Very smart. Said nobody ever. Pierce then announced the Gauntlet Match. We're still trying to find a number one contender for Gunther. And again, I've narrowed it down to 2. It's either Sami or it's Gable. I don't know which one, man. Both I'm fine with. I thought I was set on Sami, but man, watching Gable and oh man, it would be so cool if Gable runs that gauntlet and takes that title at Mania. Oof, I'm split on that one. I really am. Andrade then defeats Apollo Crews via pinfall in about a 2-minute match. I blinked. I went to get a coffee. It was already over. So it's clear they don't know what they're doing with Andrade, bro. They'd have no idea. And why did Apollo have to take, if it's a 2-minute Andrade squash, just bring up Luigi Lugnuts. No harm, no foul, done. No need to have Apollo, after all these months, show up on Raw TV and just take a 2-minute L like he's a simplistic peon, like a pissant, like the Brooklyn Brawler would whoop this dude's ass in 2.6 seconds. Bullshit. Put a jobber in there and just have Andrade absolutely annihilate the dude. That's all we need. That's more fun. We like Apollo. Nobody wants to see Apollo get destroyed or pinned. Nothing. So that hurts Andrade. If you got Luigi Lugnuts from the local bingo hall getting destroyed, that's fun. Now we can get behind Andrade. Next match, same thing. Priest and Balor defeat Vinci and Kaiser from Imperium. So Judgment Day versus Imperium. Priest and Balor defeat Vinci and Kaiser. Priest pins Vinci via the South of Heaven pinfall. South of Heaven chokeslam. Why? Again, heels versus heels. The crowd didn't know what to do in this match. When you confuse them, you'll lose them. I ask again, the same thing I've been asking. Why do some of these talents have to take a pinfall loss or any type of a loss? Why? Vinci loses again. Imperium loses again. For what reason? You could have had Priest in there with Danny Dipshit Dugenheimer from the local bingo hall. I know he's their current champion at the bingo hall, but he's a jobber to the WWE audience. Put him in there and have Priest annihilate this human. 3, 4 South of Heaven choke slams. And then finally pin Danny Dipshit Dugenheimer. That's fun. Is this fun? Was that fun for you? The crowd wasn't having fun. If you're telling me you were watching at home going, wow, Imperium and Judgment Day, oh, I'm going to go back and watch that 12 times. You're not. And it was all for just in a few minutes, Priest to just beat Imperium. So just put in Dipshit Dugenheimer and Fuckwad Fred from the bingo hall, have them get annihilated, make it fun, really boost Balor and Priest as these champions going into Mania. But no, that's too entertaining. No, that's too smart. BC, where's the positivity, man? Well, you're about to get some really good backstage interview with Drew Mac. Drew McIntyre calls Sethington a junkie, a spotlight junkie. And he goes on to say, like, Seth is pretty irrelevant when you think about it, but he always sticks his nose where there is relevancy, right? So if CM Punk comes back, he's got to be the first one to chirp and get involved with CM Punk. When The Rock comes back, he's got to be the first to get involved with The Rock. He's always trying to get involved elsewhere because nobody's got the spotlight on him. Nobody cares about him. Damn, Drewby coming with a little bit of actual information, huh? A little bit of truth, and a little bit, just a little bit of truth. Or a lot of it by Drew McIntyre. Interesting. Drew has been so good in this role, by the way. My only critique, keep it rolling at an amplified level. Like, turn it up a little bit more, man. Be more diabolical. I want to see Drew McIntyre. And at the end of the show, we got a little bit of that. I want it turned up even more. But Drew McIntyre, you want some positivity in this review, BC? Did you like anything? Drew McIntyre. Sami Zayn then defeats Ivar via Helluva Kick pinfall. Post-match, Bronson Reed takes out Zayn, and Michael Cole had an out-of-body experience with Van Halen's Antlers. We already went over this extensively, maybe too long in the cold open, so I'm not going to regurgitate what we already talked about, but the sad part here, as much as it's nice to have Pat and Michael Cole, who are good buddies, have fun, that's good on one hand. This was one of those scenarios where it exposed why it can be bad, and there was so much giggling, and they just didn't care about Sami and Ivar. At that point in the show, it was so deep into it, the third hour, Pat was bored out of his dome piece. Michael Cole was bored out of his dome piece. The Antlers were a funny thing, and they never let it go, and before you know it, Sami Zayn and Ivar were like an afterthought. And a Helluva Kick a few minutes later, and Ivar is looking up at the lights. And hopefully, maybe, who knows, maybe Michael Cole was able to spend a night with those Antlers. We don't know if Van Halen allowed Michael Cole to have one full night with those Antlers. Drew McIntyre defeats Jason Uso via pinfall off the Claymore Party. This was the main event. Jey Uso, there was some distraction. Solo Sikoa tried to interfere, but Cody Rhodes fended him off. Jimmy Uso would then show up, but Sethington Rollins sent him packing. But throughout it all, there was just too much distraction. He turns around, Drew hits a Claymore, Drew defeats Jason Uso. There was a point where Seth, when he came down, he ran right past Drew, like made it known. I'm not acknowledging you. hits the ring, Drew kind of got pissed off. Like, I'm tired of you, like, just looking past me, right? Even with our title match, and you got your focus on Cody and The Rock and Roman. And here, tonight, you're going right past me to go to Jimmy Uso. So Drew finally got pissed off, and, I mean, Seth runs right past him en route to Jimmy. This pissed Drew off, so Rollins was subsequently struck with a Claymore of his own. So Jay lost from the Claymore. Seth pissed Drew off, so Drew goes back to the ring, Claymores Seth right out of his girl's boots, and then takes the title, and he kind of hovers over Seth like this is just an appetizer of WrestleMania. And that's how the show ends, with Drew over Seth, knocked out, with Drew holding that title. Thought it was a pretty cool, I mean, it's not a cliffhanger. It's WrestleMania season. We're a few weeks before it, and you know, you should be having a lot of a hotter finish than that, right? There should be much more epicness going on to finish your Raw weeks before the big grandest stage show, but it could have been a lot worse too. So I don't mind that visual. And again, Drew's putting in some of the best work of his career, really. So that's this week's Raw review, but before I sign off, a little bit of breaking news here. Not earth-shattering in the pro wrestling world, but interesting nonetheless. Vincent Kennedy McMahon. This just broke, actually, right when I was done recording the Raw review. Vincent Kennedy McMahon has sold 5,350,000 TKO shares, which have a value of $412 million. He still owns roughly 15 million shares. Wow. Which is still almost 10% of TKO stock, 9%. So he still has an incredible large amount still. But not long ago, he also cashed in a big portion of those shares and got a big sum of cash in return. And it looks like that is continuing. I said this before. I'll continue to say it, especially after this report. You're going to see more of this right before and even right after WrestleMania. I think this is the exit strategy for Vincent Kennedy McMahon, and I'm pretty sure Ari and TKO, they're going to be more than happy, probably even helping to push Vince along the way a little bit faster than what would have been. But this is Vince McMahon's exit strategy, trust me. This is no small amounts, right? 280 million over here, 412 million over here. The next one will be 600 million, then 300 million. And by the summertime, latest, you could hear Vincent Kennedy McMahon is totally out. But $412 million. Could you imagine just waking up and going, you know what? I think I'm going to obtain 412 million extra dollars today. What could you possibly purchase for 400? Why would you need that? You just got 280 million 2 months ago. Where did that 280 go? There's a lot of NDAs, huh? You're paying off a lot of paralegals. Anyway, guys, that's some breaking news in case you're interested in that, because it's pretty interesting to a lot of us. Vince McMahon just cashing in on 412 million, and he just let go of 5 million plus TKO shares. All right, guys, until next time, there will be that next time. Top guys, we're out. BC saying check you. Peace.